Welcome back, everybody, and we hope you're enjoying the talks this morning. And we're now joined live by Julian Taylor from She Software. They're experts in the application of technology to solve customers' health and safety challenges. Assure, their comprehensive, adaptable, and intuitive health and safety solution was developed to help customers ensure compliance, streamline processes, and increase employee engagement. They believe mobile-first technology makes safety part of the day job, getting everyone involved and contributing to the digitisation of the workplace. If you've got any questions for Julian, we'd love to hear them. And I'm going to be doing a live Q&A with him after the demonstration. So pop them in the Q&A box on the top right-hand side of your screen. And I'm going to hand over to Julian now. Good luck with your presentation and enjoy.
Thank you very much, Jo. Thank you for the introduction. So the application of technology to solve health and safety problems, it all sounds very fancy, doesn't it? But there are some really sort of common themes that come up when we're talking to people and themes that I find really interesting and I think are sort of fundamental to improving health and safety performance. And those are things like leadership and engagement. So how do we encourage better leadership that then naturally encourages more people to get involved with safety and to actively talk about and to get engaged with health and safety activities. So that's what I want to talk about this morning. That's what I want to sort of do a brief demonstration of this morning. And I suppose the first thing when we're thinking about how do we engage people with health and safety, one of the most critical things is just making it really simple and easy to do. So that acronym that we all talk about of keeping it stupidly simple. So we believe in mobile first because mobile first is kind of an expectation these days that I can do things quickly and I can do it easily and I can do it potentially using a mobile app. So that's one of our key approaches. What we have to think about then is making it easy for people to access that mobile app. So what you can see on the screen here is just one example of the way that we can make it easy. So we engage with our people, we educate them about hazards and about the fact that reporting hazards has a value to them and to the organization. And then through the poster, through the use of a QR code, we can make it really easy for anybody with a mobile device to be able to go straight to a hazard reporting form to be able to input some information. Now, if you'll bear with me for a moment, I'm just going to slide that across onto my other screen, the poster. And what you can see on the screen now is my mobile phone. So you get an insight into some of the mobile apps that I use. Now, if you're on an iPhone, you can do this just using the camera. I'm using a QR reader just to do it because I use an Android device. I'm going to hit open browser. And you can see I've actually already got the app up on my desktop. So once you've used this once, it can be saved to the desktop. And what it's done is taken all the complication out of being able to report something. We don't have to go and find a paper form. We don't have to go and fill that form out. We go straight into a mobile form. Now on the system, it will be set up with your organizational structure. So it's very easy for somebody to say, where am I? I'm actually in group business. Okay. And it's now dropped me into that particular part of the organization. Who's it being reported by? I can drop my name in there. And then we try to make it just as simple and easy as possible to be able to complete any form that we need to submit. So wherever possible, if it can be done with one click, so you can see I can put the date and the time in with one click, we do that. Now the other thing is lots of people work remotely from sort of main locations, main sites. So again, we've also added in the GPS tracker, so actually it can find where I am and it can drop in my location. So you can see where I'm talking to you from this morning. Now, as I go down, we also try to use things like drop downs and radio buttons to again take the complication out of reporting, but also ensure that we get consistent information being submitted. And what we'll see shortly is how we can then represent that in a visual way to make it easy for managers and for leaders to be able to talk about the things that are being reported. Excuse me. So as we go on down, you can see there's a range of radio buttons, which makes it very easy for people to then submit their information. If I put into the hazard details, I'm just going to put loose cladding. Okay, so just keep it very simple this morning. When I hit next, it then gives me the option to be able to go in and actually drop either into the camera roll or into my camera and actually just add some supporting information. So I'll just show you the sun shining outside my window, and I'll add that picture in. So what we've got is great supporting information with any submission that we're making. Now, the other thing that people can do is that they can add a description here. They can annotate against any photos or images that they do submit. But what you can see there is it's taken me literally 2 minutes to be able to complete the form. I can submit the form. And what it's now going to do is it's going to submit the form into the main software system. And what it will do is trigger notifications. So the most critical thing is not people telling us about things, but actually then that we take the right next steps, or the right people take those next steps. So this is now going to prompt people, the right people, the manager, the supervisor, the health and safety advisor, to actually look at this hazard and go and resolve it. Now, what it's done now is taken me back to the main screen for the mobile app. And what you can see on here there's a range of different activities, different reporting forms that can feature on here. The really important thing is that you can tailor and add to those, and there's no limit in terms of the things that you can do via the mobile app. So it can become a really useful tool for people to become truly engaged with health and safety. So what happens with that information? So if I bear with me for a moment, that wasn't meant to happen. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump into the main system. And in here, what you can see is that we've then got a business intelligence tool. So the main system, which is called Assure, will actually take the information that we've submitted. It will prompt people to carry out the right activities to resolve, in this instance, a hazard. But then what we have is the capability to be able to visualize the information that's been submitted. And what I talk about is you can start to tell a story with the data. Now, if you think about the way that a lot of people work when they don't have a system like this in place, they're using things like Excel spreadsheets. So what they have to do is they have to chase and gather information from lots of different sources. They then have to put that into the Excel spreadsheet. They then have to manipulate the data. And what we find is that health and safety professionals actually end up chained to a desk, manipulating data through Excel spreadsheets, rather than doing the proactive activities that are going to improve health and safety performance. So things like education, being involved with team meetings. So the idea here is that data submitted, it's then visualized for you immediately, so you can see what's happening across the organization. The other value of visualizing data is that you can share these dashboards with other key people within the organization. And what I like to think about here is that we think about senior leadership who commonly receive maybe a monthly health and safety report that's focused on maybe lagging indicators. What we can start to do is present information to them on a daily basis. And it means that we can encourage more good conversations around health and safety on a more regular basis. And I had a really interesting conversation just a couple of weeks ago with a health and safety professional, and he proudly sort of said to me that the senior leadership within the business talked about health and safety as being the #1 priority for their organization, which you think, great. But actually, when you talked and explored it further, actually what came out was he actually reported on a monthly basis to senior leadership. So we talked about what were the other key metrics that they had within their business, and it was things like customer satisfaction. So we talked about how often they looked at those numbers, and they look at those on a daily basis. So immediately you can see there's a disconnect between this sort of proclamation of health and safety being a #1 priority and the reality. So this starts to help us to put health and safety front of mind and make it something that's discussed on a daily basis. Now, importantly, the information that you've got here, you can drill into. So I can start to see the hazards that have been submitted. So that simple drop-down list that we saw in the mobile app is now visualized as a pie chart. If I want to drill into that, so if I want to examine my electrical hazards, I can start to drill into this. I can start to say, for example, let's see who's reported these. Yeah, so if I go reported by, Now I'm going to change the visualization. So now I'm looking at my electrical hazards and I can see who's reported those electrical hazards. I could then start to say, right, whereabouts in the organization are they from? So I'm going to go, let's go to the name of the organizational area. So I can start to see, we've got some quite exotic locations here, but I can start to see where they've been reported. So straight away, I can start to see which teams, which people are actually actively engaging in my hazard reporting program. I can also see who's not actively engaged. So I can start to go and coach and educate and support those people and understand why it is that they're not involved with it. As we scroll on down, we start to see other information. So we can start to see through the geolocation, we can start to see a map, a heat map around where the hazards are being reported. And then interestingly, things like, when have they been reported? So we can start to say, is there a trend here? So we can start to think about what shifts we have. Is there a particular trend around hazards reporting at a certain time in the shift? Is it the start of the shift, maybe the end of the shift? So is it an inattention through either just starting work or sort of tiredness through just finishing a shift? And as we go on down, I think one of the things I talk about all the time is actually the key thing with health and safety is it's all about outcomes. If we think about all of the things that we do as safety professionals, whether it's inspections, whether it's an incident investigation, an audit, a risk assessment, a hazard spot, actually it's all about the thing that we do at the end of it to make sure that we've put things into place to ensure that we're getting better. So in this case, we want to make sure that the hazard's been resolved. So as I scroll on down here, I can see information around any hazards that are still outstanding. And right at the bottom, a standard part of the system is that you have an action management element to it. So I can actually see the actions that have been raised that relate to hazards, and I can see whether they've been closed out or not. So I can see on the right-hand side the current status of those actions. So I'm not having to go and look in another system. I'm not having to go and search through my emails to see, have we closed out any corrective actions? It's there, it's in one place. Again, it saves a massive amount of administration time. Now, just to wrap up the demonstration part of this, I also just wanted to talk about the metrics that we do show to our board. So I'm going to go to this dashboard on the left-hand side called lagging or leading and lagging. Now, don't be put off by the number of sort of dashboards you can see on the left-hand side there. That's because this is a demonstration system. You can really tailor these dashboards to fit your organizational requirements. There we go. So what you can see here is we've created a leading and lagging indicators dashboard. And that's something that we're really passionate about here at She Software, is actually changing the mentality of the broader organization in terms of the metrics that they look at. Very often we go and talk to somebody, talk to a business or a company, and the first thing they say is, can we do incident reporting? And it's that chicken and egg situation, isn't it, of actually, should we be looking at risk first to mitigate against incidents happening, or taking incident as a priority? But what we want to do is also change the conversations that senior leadership have. So rather than just reporting on incident stats on a monthly basis, actually start to promote this positive culture around positive activities that's going to prevent incidents from happening. So what we've got here is our leading element. So in here, we've got a whole range of things, whether it's the risk assessments that have been reviewed or completed, whether it's audits and inspections that we've carried out across the organization. And again, you can see in there our example of hazards that we've just been talking about. So we can start to create a very different culture and feel around health and safety in an organization, where people talk about positive things that are all about driving health and safety excellence and continuous improvement. So again, you can see that we can scroll on down here and we can start to see a correlation and a number of different things that are going to drive more positive behaviors. Absolutely, we still need to manage incidents effectively within any organization that we work in. So we can still have all of those incident metrics in there, but we can start to maybe take those a step further, and we can start to really understand our root cause analysis and start to be able to understand more sort of effectively why incidents are happening and how we can resolve them and prevent them from happening again. And then critically at the end here, we've got actions. And again, with that same theme that I've just touched upon, everything in health and safety is around outcomes. And what we want to do is sort of really put outcomes front of mind. So here again, it means that our managers, supervisors, senior leaders can actually very easily get a picture of how we're performing across the organization, not just in terms of actually activities that we're doing, but also in terms of closing things out at the end of those activities. So if we've been creating lots of new risk assessments, have we ensured that the control measures that we've identified are in place? If we've done an audit, are the non-conformances or corrective actions, are they closed out? So what you can see here again is it's very simple and it's very easy for you as a health and safety professional to be able to sort of look across the business and say, have we done what we said we would do when we would do? And this is something that we find in lots of places is a real challenge because people separate out the activity from the actions. So maybe they do an audit and that's done maybe on an Excel spreadsheet. The corrective actions are then sent out via an email. So when you're actually sitting and looking at that audit, it's very challenging for you to know where you are in terms of the status of any of those actions. Now, at that point, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to hand back to Joe, and I'm going to see if we've had any questions as we've been running through.
Great stuff. Thank you so much. That was a really fascinating and very clear presentation. So thanks, Julian. As Julian just said, don't forget any questions, post them now in the top right-hand corner. So I have got a few questions come in, so I'll crack on through these if that's okay. So they love the simplicity of the drop downs and the radio buttons, but is there an option to free type if unable to find the preloaded option that they want?
Yes, there is. So we have a range of different fields, and with the forms that you see on the mobile app, you've got the option there to sort of really define what fields you want to have in there. So if you wanted to have something where people could be more descriptive, absolutely you can.
Fantastic. And is the app available in different languages, so Spanish, French, etc.?
Yeah, so we are a multilingual system. So we've got a number of languages that are available already, and we do translations as well.
Oh, that's good to know. So can the form be completed offline? So, for example, where there's no connectivity and then uploaded when connectivity is available?
You're asking me the perfect questions here, Joe, because the answer to that one is a really simple one. Yes, it is. So on the app, you can download any form that's on there, so it's available to complete offline. So anyone who's working remotely, we deal with sort of people who sort of are involved with forestry. They're out where there's no internet connection. They can still complete the form. We think that's really important because it's that classic case of if I don't do it now, actually I forget to do it later. So they can still complete it and then it will just upload later on.
Gosh, you maybe need to create an app for everything in life. I forget to do everything, just whatever, leave it till later. Yep. Can you maybe talk about some examples of how the mobile app has helped with engagement in organisations?
I think it's that whole point of making life simple and easy, Joe. So if you think about sort of the way health and safety was classically done, it was go and find a form, paper form, fill that paper form out, then take it to a manager or a supervisor to submit. Or in lots of cases, what we see is actually sort of in construction, for example, site managers actually doing the submissions rather than the people on the ground. So actually just for people to be able to instantly just click onto a form and complete it, and you saw me do it in 2 minutes. Actually, we've seen an uplift in reporting of sort of, in some cases, sort of over 100% once we've put this into place. And I think I don't stand here and say, actually, technology is the thing that's going to change the world. Actually, it's a combination. So it's a combination of the people that we're talking to this morning, educating their teams around the value of the activities, how to carry out the activities, and then here's the tool that's going to help to make it easy to do those. So it's got to be a sort of holistic approach to the way that we do this.
Absolutely. Well, that's the same with everything, isn't it? So it's fantastic you're taking that approach, I think. Now, we've had an interesting question come in. So can I ask if we can see how the app looks on a phone, as most of our managers have this type of device? So you might not actually have that on hand to be able to show. If you do, great. But maybe if you don't, then you could talk us through the differences with the desktop and the phone.
So that was my phone that you saw me working on this morning. So I wasn't working on a desktop. That was my phone that I was actually sort of working through the form on. The desktop, I suppose, is just more comprehensive in terms of what's on there. And there's always a challenge for a software business in terms of sort of putting too much rich functionality into something that's going to be used on a mobile device, because it then becomes cumbersome. And we wanted to keep it really clean and simple and easy to use. As we evolve as a business, more and more we're looking at making everything sort of mobile first. But even the main platform, if you're using a tablet, smartphone, you can still access the functionality from a smartphone or tablet.
That's fantastic. There's a lot of information. I didn't quite realize, honestly didn't realize that was your phone. So is it actually compatible with all mobile devices?
Yeah, so we're completely agnostic when it comes to operating systems, and we might have personal preferences, but actually it works across any sort of platform.
Great stuff. Okay, so can you share the dashboards with other stakeholders?
Yeah, and again, we see that as a really critical sort of part of what we're doing. Sharing information is just a great way of encouraging people to talk about safety. If we share a report once a month, people are going to talk about safety once a month. So one of the great things with the dashboards is that you can actually schedule that it'll go out maybe on a weekly basis to all your key supervisors, and it then just triggers them to look at and sort of talk about the metrics that we're sending to them. And again, it's aligning that back to educating them around why we're sending you this information. Because I think we've all worked for businesses where we've maybe received regular reports from another team or department, and we think, what does it actually mean? So I think the why is really important. We educate people on the why we're sending it.
Yeah, well, that's great, because, you know, how is it relevant to me? How is it going to make a difference? You know, you don't just do tick boxes, do you, all the time? Because the tick boxes don't help anything.
No, I think that's. I mean, I could talk about this all day, Joe. But I think that's one of the most important things. Is actually, we talk about business values, and actually being a cynical Yorkshire guy, I'd actually say I'm not really interested in business values. Actually, what's in it for me? And a lot of people are like that. So why am I doing this? What's the value of safety to me? And I think that's something we work with a consultant called Dawn Hemmings, and she's really interesting. She does lots of training with people on the shop floor around what's the implications of getting this wrong to you and to your family for the long term. And actually, once people really understand that, that's when they engage with safety activities. So our part is making it easy for them to do it.
Well, hats off to you, because it's human nature, isn't it?
Yeah.
To find the why and to be able to relate it. So it's great that you guys are doing that. So what format can the dashboards be sent out in?
So you can either link people in so they're looking at the live dashboard, or it can be sent out as a PDF document that people can sort of then share with other people if necessary.
Great stuff. Okay, is the app available in the app stores so we can take a look at the previews ourselves?
We can set people up with a trial. One of the things that we've done is actually we've gone down a different technology route than the App Store. And we've done that very deliberately, because once people have got the app set up on the phone, and it's really, you've seen how easy it is to do this morning, actually you don't need to then go to the App Store to get updates on any changes that have been made. So part of our system is that you as an administrator can create forms and add those to the mobile app. So it's in your control. But it means that once you make that change, all of your users get that next time they log on. So next time they fire up the app on their home screen, they're going to get all of the changes that have been made. So we take out the complication of having to go to app stores. But if somebody wants to have a trial, come talk to us. We can set up very easily. We can set up for you to use that QR code that I used earlier and actually go on and just try it and see it for yourself.
Oh, good stuff. So how's the market received this product so far? Because it sounds like it's a really great product and very simple to use.
It's great. I mean, I have to say, we talk to hundreds of businesses every year. And the thing that they find really compelling is the two things that I've shown this morning, is that easy ability for anybody to do safety. And we talk about giving people a safety voice. So everybody in your organization has got a voice around safety. But then actually, how do you take that noise that they're making and make it easy for everybody who needs to be able to really understand what that means? So that's the dashboards. So you take that information and visualize it so that people can talk about it.
Fab. So have you any suggestions for improving leadership engagement with health and safety?
Yeah, keep kicking them. So that's the first thing. You've got to keep kicking them. You've got to keep pushing them. Yeah. I mean, I have a personal view, and I think last year was a bit of a write-off for various reasons that we all know about. But in 2019, I went to lots of conferences, and leadership was the thing that everybody was talking about. And it was a real light bulb moment, because I've been doing this for a long time. And it suddenly clicked with me. How many times do you go and talk to a health and safety person about making this big change in an organization? There's no sign of leadership. There's no senior leadership in the meeting, and they only get engaged right at the end of the process when they've got to sign a check. So that tells me we've got a cultural issue here around leadership that we need to start to affect. So how can technology help? Well, a couple of ways. The first thing you can do is that you can give them more information on a more frequent basis. You can help them to understand the value of that information, and you can encourage them then to go and talk to people across the organization around the things that you're showing them. So for example, every time they go to site, they might talk about the hazards that have been identified at that site. Yep, simple thing. And then the other thing is the mobile app isn't just for, if I call them the sort of employees, it's for everybody. So actually we could put things like leadership tours onto the mobile app. So actually we start to challenge leadership to say, every time you go to a different team or a different team meeting or a site, you do a leadership tour. It might take you 10 minutes, but you go and talk about safety. And it's that visible felt leadership that people talk about, that actually leadership is seen to be saying this thing is important. And actually, if leadership starts saying this thing is important, people start doing it. The problem at the moment is we've got an absence of leadership. So actually, it's not seen as important. The other things, the customer satisfaction, the production numbers, the things that they do talk about are seen as the priority.
Yeah, some really good advice there. I think we've got maybe a minute left, so I'll ask you this question and maybe a little bit of a concise answer. So does the software sit on the device, i.e. the inputting can be done whilst not connected to the internet? I think we've already actually asked this. And you said, yes, you can.
Concise answer, yes.
Yeah. Julian, you've been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for being so candid. And yeah, I've really enjoyed this this presentation. Guys, if you want to find out more about the products discussed, you can book a meeting with Julian or She Software from their exhibitor booth. Get in touch as well if you want to have a trial. Otherwise, we'll be back at 11:30 with another product demo from Notify. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.